Hey guys, today we received some CPI data and the market is reacting to it pretty well. Now we did receive a PPI yesterday and that did come in under expectations, which is a positive. And now with this coming in somewhat favorably, the market is definitely positively reacting. Now on a core basis, CPI climbed 0.2% over the prior month, which is slower than December's monthly 0.3% gain. On a yearly basis, prices rose 3.2%. Prior to December's print, core CPI has been stuck at a 3.3% yearly gain over the last 4 months. This is the first time since July that year-over-year core CPI saw deceleration in price growth. Markets reacted positively for good reason, says Raymond James chief economist Eugenio Ailman. This guy likes his beer. The Federal Reserve is okay with watching the headline CPI go up temporarily if that increase does not spill over into core. And this is what happened in December. CPI increased 2.9% over the prior year in December, an uptick from November's 2.7%, which did match expectations. Now I'll leave that down below for you because they go into different details about different categories and all that kind of stuff. Looking at CPI year over year, I like going on this because this kind of gives you a broader picture, a larger picture. This steps back a bit and lets you see the whole image. And looking at what we're seeing, inflation has been rising from our bottom of 2.4%, which was given in October. So while it has been rising, it is a sigh of relief that we didn't see that psychological 3%, and we basically came in, for the most part, in line with expectations. That was convenient. But what's worrying is it has been ticking up as the months have been progressing. If there's any hope of a Fed cut in the future, we're going to have to see this come back towards the low twos. Now we also have some crypto news to talk about. We're going to talk about this article. We're also going to talk about CleanSpark, Mara, and RIOT, 3 of the largest Bitcoin miners. They all have a very similar chart setup. And this article says Bitcoin inflows under Trump spark a new 249,000 Bitcoin price target for 2025. And according to on-chain analytics platform CryptoQuant, Bitcoin could reach nearly 250,000 in 2025 as $500 billion of new capital flows in. About $520 billion of fresh capital could flow into Bitcoin in 2025, researchers calculated. Here's Bitcoin's realized cap. This chart basically shows that historical patterns could mean that we're going to see a $520 billion inflow. Cycle to cycle, we do see larger inflows. Now, this is the current cycle with 2017 overlaid. This guy thinks it could go to $1 million. I think that's very, very optimistic. You need to consider diminishing returns. It is not going to do the same as 2017, in my opinion. Bitcoin was much, much, much smaller in market cap. You can't expect the same performance. Brex Capital brings up the monthly bull flag. A case can still be made for a monthly bull flag. We've been consolidating. Now this graph here, this is the expansion in the total capital invested in Bitcoin, which is the realized cap. And these are different wallets holding different amounts of Bitcoin. And in 2024, addresses between 100 and 1,000 Bitcoin, which is this purple area, they were responsible for the largest inflow of capital in 2024, growing from 100 billion to 227 billion, an increase of 127 billion or 127%. This has to be some kind of joke. You start to go up by 10,000 a day or drop by 10,000 a day. Okay, that's doable, sure. And this is the God candle. After that, we'll start to see Omega candles, which are $100,000 increments daily. There is no way in hell Bitcoin will double in a day or lose everything in a day. That is impossible. That is an extremely large amount of money. To think that it can do in one day what it has taken essentially its whole history to do, because now that we're at $100,000, I find that extremely, misleading, I guess you could say. Watch out for things like this. Someone thinking $1 million is going to hit this cycle. You might not want to listen to people like that. We will see $1 million one day. I don't think it's coming this cycle. Maybe next cycle, maybe the cycle after that. But to expect a 10x nearly out of Bitcoin with the small amount of time left to this cycle we have, I think there is not a snowball's chance in hell. But hey, I'm all for it. If we could see $1 million Bitcoin, I guess retirement will be coming in a little bit early for some of us, eh? Now, like I said, I do want to look at some of the Bitcoin miners, the largest Bitcoin miners in the space. And by the way, if you want exposure, general exposure to Bitcoin miners, you can buy something like WGMI. If you're unsure of which Bitcoin miner to buy, you want just general exposure to the space, I think WGMI is a great choice. And this is their heat map right now. This is the order of their largest positions, basically. Iron takes the cake with a 15% weighting. Next is Cypher with a 10% weighting. CleanSpark with nearly a 10% weighting. And it continues on. But see, if you want general exposure to some of, in my opinion, the best Bitcoin miners, you need to look no further than WGMI. You don't need to rack your brain and spend a bunch of time trying to figure out which Bitcoin miner to buy. You can take advantage now and DCA into WGMI while also looking into which Bitcoin miner you want more exposure to specifically. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Now looking at CleanSpark, we have a very similar pattern going on for a lot of the miners basically across the board, this double bottom. I do think this is going to play out, and I think in a matter of time we are going to test the 50 MA, which could easily come by the inauguration. Now, I don't think CleanSpark is going to break this long pattern until we get a good earnings, and the good thing is we are expected to see a profitable quarter in the upcoming earnings. I think this date isn't going to be the correct date. CleanSpark hasn't given an official announcement yet. This is just TradingView's expectations on the date based on other dates in the past. But they are expecting a profitable quarter. They're expecting 153 million in revenue, which is a record quarter by a mile. And this is where things start getting good. This is based off of Q4. This is when Bitcoin went into the 100,000s for the first time. That is still not accounted for from the Bitcoin miners. The quarter that's accounted for from the Bitcoin miners is Q3. I've said this a million times. This is when Bitcoin was anywhere from 49,000 to like $70,000. Q4 was substantially better for Bitcoin and therefore substantially better for the Bitcoin miners. Plus, while Bitcoin is going up in price, they are bringing their joules per terahash down, which is a massive positive. Some of the Bitcoin miners now are just reaching under 20 joules per terahash. This helps their bottom line. This lowers their cost to mine. Efficiency in this space is key. I think we are near breaking out. We are near good times again for the Bitcoin miners, and I think Q4 is the beginning of that catalyst. Now here's RIOT, still kind of similar, still stuck under its descending resistance, but it is continuing to slowly but surely rise as well. We're basically tightening up. At some point we are going to have a huge breakout in my opinion. Now RIOT doesn't expect a profitable quarter. Keep in mind when their earnings was given. This was October, the end of October. Bitcoin was much lower in price in October. Bitcoin did not yet reach 100,000. So their guidance was given on a much lower price in Bitcoin. Perhaps we see a surprise beat on RIOT, a surprise profitable quarter. But revenue-wise, 134 million expected. This would be a massive growth in revenue, very positive. We'll see if they see a profitable quarter or not. I have a feeling there's a possibility, of course, because of when earnings was given. This was before Bitcoin kept rising in price. And this is the case with a lot of the Bitcoin miners that reported earlier in 2024. Those that reported Q3, like RIOT, and in the end of October before November and December's run. But RIOT too also has this double bottom. Before I go to the next thing, this is kind of a double bottom here. We need to break out of these previous highs. If we start setting new higher highs, new higher lows, this is a positive direction, but we need to see more of it. One thing that's really positive for RIOT is we actually did see a flip of the moving averages. The 50 MA is now over the 200 MA. This is where things start getting good again. We need to see the other Bitcoin miners do this as well. And what else, guys? We also filled this gap here. In my opinion, RIOT is set to finally go on its next run. It's just a matter of waiting for Bitcoin, waiting for the inauguration pump, waiting for these Bitcoin miners' earnings to get good again. Like I said, the last thing we have to go off of was Q3, which was definitely a rough quarter for the Bitcoin miners. Looking at Mara too, we did see a golden cross. However, it has been pulling back lately, and the moving averages are no longer pointing up really. But this can change quickly, and if we can react to our double bottom here, which this one's a little bit behind the others in my opinion, it is a matter of breaking out, breaking over that 50 MA, holding over the 200 MA also. If you want a really good deal, I'm not saying it's going to get there, but you could be patient if you don't have a position yet, or if you want to just get in at what could be the best price possible. I would wait until the 15s. You could DCA now. It's probably going to play out very great for you. But in my opinion, also, you could wait, keep some cash on the side, look for a 15 area, 16 area maybe, a confirmed bounce on this ascending trend. We did bounce on this white ascending trend. Maybe that'll be enough for the market. Maybe Bitcoin starts really turning around and hype continues and we never get down to this level and you just miss out. In that case, a DCA wouldn't be a terrible idea. Mara too expects an unprofitable quarter. Keep in mind, when they reported was very early November. This was before Bitcoin broke 100K. So maybe things get a little better there. But yeah, they're expecting an unprofitable quarter, 184 million revenue, which would be a record quarter for revenue. To me, the Bitcoin miners aren't going much lower. They just got through the halving. Mara is nearly 50% from its high that it set this cycle so far. I do think these Bitcoin miners are going to set new 52-week highs. New all-time highs, I don't necessarily think so. Mara would have to break $83 just to break the last cycle high. To break its all-time high, there is not a snowball's chance in hell. This is why you play the Bitcoin miners cycle to cycle. You don't want to hold them through the bear market. They're going to dilute. They're going to sell off. Some are going to potentially reverse split. But from cycle low to cycle high, what do I think Mara is going to give? At its best from cycle low till so far, we saw 10x. I think it will do more than that. I think at a bare minimum, something like Mara can see a $50 price. But it needs to get to profitable quarters. All the Bitcoin miners do for that matter. Once we get some profitable quarters under our belt again, kind of like what we saw before the halving took it away when Bitcoin was like 30, 40,000 pre-halving. You know, once we get to those profitable quarters again, when things look good again, I see no reason Mara can't be a $50 stock. I see no reason Mara can't do a 15x, possibly even better, possibly even a 20x against Bitcoin's 10x from cycle low to cycle top, from 15K to 150K. If Bitcoin does more than that, maybe the Bitcoin miners do even more. The Bitcoin miners are very profitable with Bitcoin at 150K. The Bitcoin miners are extremely profitable with Bitcoin at 200K. I do believe once Bitcoin finally breaks its descending resistance, these Bitcoin miners are going to go parabolic. Once Bitcoin breaks out over 100K, I think there's a good chance we're not looking back. I think there's a good chance that we go on our next leg up. We break this 108K all-time high, and we start working our way to 120K, bringing the vast majority of the Bitcoin miners back to profitability. And then we have all of 2025 to enjoy some profitable quarters, for Wall Street to pile back into the Bitcoin miners, for their fundamentals to vastly improve. And also consider those Bitcoin miners that I just named, Mara, CleanSpark, RIOT, they have pretty large Bitcoin holdings. When Bitcoin rallies in price, their balance sheet that holds a ton of Bitcoin is going to be more valuable. These Bitcoin miners are going higher. It is a matter of getting some more positive quarters again. The rough quarters are behind us. We just got through the halving. This was a horrible quarter for the Bitcoin miners, a great chance to load up while they were cheap. Most are higher than the prices they were when Bitcoin was 49K, by the way. And in hindsight, this was a fantastic time to load up on 1, Bitcoin, and 2, the Bitcoin miners. Now, this quarter has not been reflected yet. This is the quarter the Bitcoin miners are about to report. And what is our following quarter? What is Q1 of 2025 going to look like for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners? This is off to a much better start than the beginning of Q4 when Bitcoin was like 60-something thousand. Keep in mind, like I was saying, with the Bitcoin miners that reported in early November, Bitcoin was still in like the high 80s. They're giving projections on their Q4 earnings based on what Bitcoin has done by the time they got to earnings, which was like a 80-something thousand dollar Bitcoin. So I do believe some will beat their earnings estimates. Will they see profitability? Maybe, maybe not. But there's no doubt that Q1 of 2025 is off to an even better start than Q4. So stay patient, guys. Know that the fundamentals of these Bitcoin miners are vastly improving, and we don't have another halving to cut them down until next cycle. So the rest of this bull run, in my opinion, is going to be a great one. But thanks as always for watching, guys. What Bitcoin miners are you loading up on? Are you taking advantage of WGMI? Is there another Bitcoin mining ETF in the space I don't know about? Are you just sticking to other Bitcoin plays like MicroStrategy, Coinbase, some of the Bitcoin ETFs? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Bitcoin's set for a great 2025, and in my opinion, this is the time for the Bitcoin miners to shine. Once they get back to those profitable quarters, the sky's the limit. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.